Once upon a time, you know, Santa said, let's go, go, go to Portland, Oregon.
All right. I think we're on. You want to say hi to everybody?
Oh, hi. Hello. We have started.
I'm over here trying to.
Merry Christmas. It's good to get to be with some of you today. And I hope these are encouraging you some. We've been going through, we started the story, sort of like, what is Jesus' story from Matthew's point of view? And so we started the lineage of Jesus. And we noted that Matthew mentions 4 women, which is unusual. And we were looking into their stories to figure out why, because each one of these, entries could have had a mom. There was a dad, but there was also a mom, but only 4 of the moms are mentioned. So, and then Mary is the 5th at the end. So anyway, we went through Tamar and Rahab in the last couple of weeks.
Rahab.
So
Rahab is Neptune. But anyway,
so we went through Tamar and Rahab's stories a bit, not in detail, and you'll need to read them all later. But the 4th one is Ruth, and which is actually one of my favorite stories in the Old Testament.
The 4th one?
The 3rd one, sorry. Okay. Misspoke. Yeah, the 3rd one is Ruth. The 4th one is Bathsheba. So we've got
Uriah's wife,
exactly. And we can talk about that next.
I put the Christmas tree up. Say something about the tree.
Oh, yeah.
Can we make this festive? It's almost Christmas. This is the latest I've ever put a tree up, I think.
Yeah, I think maybe. We even got a tree up last year, even though we missed Christmas. But we had a tree up.
You had a bit going on. We go to the cancer center twice a week, and we'll meet with the doctor next week. Thank you all for praying for Lisa. Her platelets are up a little bit. It was the highest it's been in quite a while yesterday, and she didn't need an injection for low
white cells, the white blood cells.
It was a good day. Now she's on a pretty strong medication, and so we'll talk to the doctor and find out just how encouraging this all is. But we're going to be encouraged for Christmas, right?
Yeah. We've had a lot of good news,
and she always looks good.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that. And we had Lily baptized on Sunday, so that was really fun.
That was encouraging.
So it was very exciting.
But what other than the fact that Ruth and these women are in the lineage of Jesus, there's not a lot of Christmas story here, is there? I mean, Jingle Bells and Frosty the Snowman and Here Comes Santa and We Three Kings we can't even say that anymore. But
no, there weren't 3 kings.
So what exactly are we doing here? What? I know that this is one of your favorite stories too.
Right, it is one of my favorite stories. But you're saying you don't think it's very Christmassy?
Well, you have to stretch it to make it. I mean, it would be, if we were making a movie, it could be really Christmassy. We could have a narrator reading the lineage of Jesus and get to these women and have just sort of like a montage of these experiences while Joseph is leading the donkey with Mary sitting on it.
It wasn't necessarily a donkey.
Okay, all right, the camel or the whatever, and maybe she was leading it.
Along.
Think she got there before it was too bouncy. But no, I think there's a way to make it about Christmas. But really, this is just sort of an opportunity to share some of our favorite stories from, and it ties into the lineage of Jesus. So
yeah, to me, this is about Christmas, but it's probably everybody's so individual in how they look at things. Like to me, Christmas is like for years, I missed it, decades. I believed you really shouldn't celebrate Christmas as Jesus' birth or anything like that. And that was what I was taught as a child, and somehow I just accepted it and went with it. But
Well, the way it makes me feel now, and we say this all the time, and I don't have a profound way to say it. I mean, it's going to sound like it really is all about Jesus. It seems to me that what Matthew is doing, and that story you read back there about Tamar, this ties into the birth of Christ, and that story you read back there about Rahab, and now today Ruth, and I mean, it's all leading us to this birth, and then the life and the death and the burial and the rest. It's all about Jesus,
right. It's kind of
and Jesus was all about God.
Yes.
So
yes. So it's how we got Jesus, like how God worked it out for us to end up with Jesus. And it's that, I mean, Jesus coming, it's like God coming to earth and being born as a baby is pretty amazing. I mean, that is incredible. The greatest miracle ever happened, I think. It maybe except for the resurrection, his resurrection and what that entailed. But I mean, just the agreement to do it, the decision to be willing to do it is so powerful. And I think that when Matthew tells the story and he brings these things up, it makes me think that he was trying to begin the story a little bit before the birth itself and trying to get his audience to look back and see what God was bringing. God was coming to earth. What was God bringing with him? And there was a message that was coming, several messages. But the message of Ruth, I believe, is a story of Hesed. And I know that you could pronounce that a little more effectively.
Not me.
Hesed. Anyway, it's a Rahab. It's the same sort of that. There's a difference. But Hesed, Hesed. And it's a Hebrew word that is translated throughout the Old Testament in lots of different ways. I mean, everlasting love, merciful love, merciful. Like there's all these positive things that are translated from this word Hesed, and I think it's because it doesn't have maybe an exact translation for us in English. But the one that I love the most, sorry, I don't know where it is.
It's back behind us somewhere.
It's
okay, she's getting her phone. It's all right.
You might want to text or call.
What is she needing something?
I don't know. That was her calling.
Well, go ahead. So
Hesed. I like how C.C. James defines it the best, I think, and it's unreasonable love, irrational love, like that which it would be unreasonable to ask someone to do. It's reasonable to ask someone to save you, like if you were drowning or something, save me in a situation that was dangerous. But to say, would you sacrifice and let your child die and save me instead, please? Like that's unreasonable. It's irrational. It's like something you just would not ask of someone. And that Hesed carries that connotation, this incredible love, this self-sacrificing kind of love. And I think that is Ruth's story.
Well, why? Show us how.
Well, I think that, we don't have time to go through the whole story, but I think that most people that we're talking
briefly
to know the story, but that Naomi and her husband there's a famine in Jerusalem, and Naomi and her husband go to Moab in search of sort of more food to feed their kids. They've got 2 sons, and they get over in Moab, and then he dies. So Naomi's husband dies, and her sons, they grow up and marry Moabite women. And then after about 10 years, anyway, the sons die as well. And it's Naomi left with 2 daughters-in-law. And it's these 3 women. And that happens all in the first 5 verses of the book of Ruth, which normally, if all the men in the whole thing died in the first 5 verses, you would think this is not, as far as in their day and time, what would the story be?
All the adventure's over. The guys are gone.
Well, it's like there seems like nobody can be the hero, or what's going to happen, like what's going to go on, because the word for that we've gone over, the word for widow in Hebrew is voiceless, without voice, and so you've now got 3 widows that are together. So Naomi gets very discouraged, very probably depressed, sad, and but she hears that the famine has lifted in Jerusalem and that she will go back, is what she's decided. And so she's thinking she should go back. So she tells the daughter-in-laws to go back to their homes. And there's a whole lot of detail in the story that I really love. It's one of my favorites, but we can't go into it. But Orpah decides to do the reasonable thing, the rational thing, and do she cries, she's so sad, but she says goodbye and leaves Naomi. And Ruth chooses to do the irrational thing, the thing that's completely unreasonable. And she decides instead she's going to attach herself to Naomi and go home with her. Now, a Moabite will not be welcomed very well at all in Jerusalem. And she knows, she's never been there. I mean, it's this whole situation, but Naomi's like, oh, whatever. Okay, come. I mean, she can't get Ruth to change her mind, but Ruth professes this faith, not just a love and a loyalty to Naomi, but a faith that your God will be my God and your people will be my people. And so she really signs up for this whole thing. And I think that she has been affected by Naomi's faith over the years. Now, Naomi's faith at this moment is kind of in a bad place. Like Naomi's in a dark place. She's sad. She's depressed. She feels like God's hesed has left her, that he's left her, that he has abandoned her. And which a lot of people can feel at times, and a lot of people at Christmas even can feel that, a sadness and just a grief through these holidays, memories. And I think that she's at a bad place, but Ruth she just compensates. She's like, I will be there. I'm going to do this. We'll get there. And so she goes with Naomi on this really treacherous journey and goes, and then she works everything out. She lays down her life. She sacrifices everything. And then what we see is this beautiful story of Naomi sacrificing everything, like putting everything at risk and sacrificing everything for the sake of Ruth. And then we see Ruth sacrificing everything. I mean, putting herself on the line and sacrificing everything for Naomi. And then you see Boaz come. God used Boaz to come in. And I think that Ruth really challenges him to go beyond anything he's ever imagined and to become a part of something so incredible. And Boaz is my favorite male character in the Old Testament. I think that he's just phenomenal.
You like old men?
Yeah, I think so. And that he is a Hayel is the word to describe him. He's this man of integrity, this man of courage, and he sees and hears who she is and what she's done for Naomi. And he says that she should be honored because of it and repaid. And so he is willing, and she pushes him. I mean, the things that Ruth asked for are far beyond anything reasonable or rational for him to do. He puts his fortune at risk.
A lot of the story takes place in the field, right? They're out in the field.
Well, there's a bit of it there, yeah, and then in the warehouse kind of place where they stored the grain, and but he's pushed to go beyond anything. He's probably, I mean, he puts everything at risk, his own family, his own sort of place, and he risks it all. It's like they all come together and they decide to do what's best for the others. And then God blesses the whole thing. And of course, Boaz is Rahab's son, which is the beautiful thing in the story. Last week we did Rahab, and this is her son. And so I believe that he was specially prepared for a woman like Ruth, that he was ready for. It's like he saw in her something different, something amazing, and was willing to come along on her wild and crazy ride, sort of like to do this.
And the story, correct me where I don't remember all of the details right now, but there was a man who was in line to take Ruth, right?
Well, that is a closer kinsman redeemer than he is.
Right.
Yeah.
And so he goes to that guy first.
Well, he goes to the elders,
to the elders,
and he presents, and that guy.
I picture him all
you do it,
sitting around at the gate, and he goes and sits down and and starts talking to him about, you've heard about this situation, right? And it's who's the first guy? Do you remember the names? I don't remember the names. The guy
Elimelech.
Was it
you mean the Naomi's husband?
No. The one that was in line now that she's a widow.
I don't know. I'm not even sure it's listed.
Mm-hmm. But he decides he doesn't want to do it.
Right.
But a lot of it,
it's a huge sacrifice. Whoever does it, instead of it being this blessing, there's a fear connected to it.
Because of dividing the inheritance.
It's
about property. It's about
yes. Well, and Ruth at this point would have been known probably as barren, because she had been married with no children before. And so none of these men normally would want a barren wife, And so anyway, because then it's just a mouth to feed or whatever,
So what do you think Boaz did?
Well, I think he took the challenge. Right down to even the way she challenged him from the beginning to let her glean and gather. It's like she pushed kind of what the norms were. It was, I think, a lot of the stories about not going with the bare minimum requirement, but instead going way beyond what's necessary, way beyond even what's reasonable to love someone or to rescue someone or to help someone. And I think that is Ruth. She's that Azer, once again, that word from Genesis about being the rescuer, that's who God made her to be. And I think that she comes in and she does some amazing things with both of them, and they all work together. They all get in on this idea of let's love in just this crazy love, this amazing love that's self-sacrificing.
The thing I've been thinking about since last week, trying to figure out, do I have anything at all to contribute to this? And the thought that just occurs to me is how much thought Boaz put into everything, and doing things the way you were supposed to, but still seems like getting to a place that he wanted to get to. I mean, I can imagine he would have been resigned if someone else said, no, that's my right, I'm going to do it. I can see him shrugging, well, that's your right. But it's like he's smarter, it seems to me, than everybody else, and knows how that one's going to react and what's going to happen. And he's not being like one of the parables Jesus would say where someone's being, shifty or shrewd, or but he's being shrewd. And the thing that impresses me isn't, I mean, the shrewdness is impressive, but more it's just how much, I mean, if he hadn't had this heart, these thoughts, if he hadn't thought of it, if he just hadn't said, this needs my attention. If he hadn't imposed himself in a way into the situation, then it wouldn't have happened that way. And I think about how much people today, how much we need to give thought to doing good things. He saw an opportunity where there was a need. And I think that for us today, there's a lot of opportunities, but if we don't have the creativity of mind, or a willing heart, and then just the thought, a lot of things just go undone because we don't notice. We don't pay attention to it and think that we can impose ourselves and just insinuate ourselves in a situation that needs help.
Yeah. I mean, it was her idea she went beyond, even what Naomi suggested, but it was her idea to
Ruth started
marry. But what I was going to say, but he took note of the young girl that came to the field. And
said, "Who is that?"
He was incredibly spiritual about it. It's very interesting. He treated her like a daughter. He even says that it's like he just wanted to protect her. In fact, he wanted to make sure no one embarrassed her. It's so interesting how he took such care. He told them how to treat her, to take some of the wheat out and leave it for her. And if she gathered in the wrong place, to not embarrass her, not to rebuke her, but to just go on.
She's not from around here. She doesn't do it a certain way.
Well, and she's a foreigner, which he knew they might be really mean to her. And so he really laid down the law about how she was to be treated in his field, and that no one was to touch her. I mean, it was just really interesting how, and then even he served her food when they ate together. There was this care that he took, and the reasoning that he gives is that he knew, he had heard how she treated Naomi, what she had done, that she had given up her home, she had given up her land, her people, her homeland and her people, and come because Naomi needed her, and that needed to be rewarded. So he had this heart. He was paying attention, and he had heard the rumors. So when she ended up there, he wanted to be very careful how she was treated. I don't think he probably had any clue what was coming, and that he was going to ask her to go beyond the bare minimum rules for gathering, or that she was going to come to him and ask him basically to invoke the Levirate law and become a kinsman redeemer. I don't think that he probably expected all that, but he was flattered, and he was even like, that's amazing.
Well, he said, you didn't go after the young men.
Right.
Yeah.
He was, and there was and I think in that he was telling her, there was such a wisdom and a maturity in her, that she was more righteous. She was trying to do the right thing once again for Naomi. She was trying to do what's right rather than just find a way to get happy or be taken care of. She was trying to do what was best. And of course they end up having Obed, and Obed was what?
Father of Jesse, and Jesse was the father of David.
So Obed was incredibly important, but the people rejoiced because they looked at Obed as Naomi's child. And in that culture, there's a good chance that that's how it was looked at, that she sacrificed and gave her firstborn to Naomi.
Well, this time of year,
of course, they all lived together.
When things slow down a little bit, I don't know. But the combination between living on Peacock Lane and being interested in this house and who lived in this house and trying to find out details about the people there. And also, I think it started with the girls and us sitting around the Christmas tree years ago when they started asking about their roots and our family. Things I get on ancestry.com often, at least maybe not once a day, but usually sometime during the day, in the morning or in the evening. I'll get in and I'll be looking either for some other clue about one of my greats or your greats or the people that lived in this house. Ancestry.com has helped me find people here. And it gives me a perspective. I mean, I just think about if we could go, if they had ancestry.com back then, Obed was David's grandpa. And if the little shepherd boy could say, let me on ancestry.com. Oh, and who is his mom? And you get these little. I don't know if anyone else uses ancestry. I don't know if this makes sense, but it personifies it a lot to me to think that Matthew is telling ancestry.com stories about Jesus. That this is what led up all the zigging and zagging. This little Moabite girl was born that had no inkling of the Messiah or messianic stories or anything like that, but she's going to become a major character in it. Mm-hmm. And
yeah, it is. It's
and the fact. I mean, this is. I know there's things for time. We're gonna let's wrap this. I got more Christmas tree stuff to do, but I'm not. No, you get to do everything you want to do. But what do you really want to do? I mean, because I know that this story has so much to do with God's people and how we're supposed to love foreigners.
Yeah. And I think that, to me, when I think about what does this story teach me and what I think Matthew was trying to possibly communicate to his audience that was reading it, is that I think that he was trying to show that the Gentiles were real people. And I think that he wove in these Gentile women into the story of the Messiah, this most important story that had ever been told. And he made sure that they remembered and that they thought about it. And that when they thought about these, they knew these people, they knew these stories. It was part of their history, and they had an oral history. They learned about
They didn't try to hide it.
No. And but this brought it to mind. It made when he was listing this, it's like he intended, I believe he was making a point to make them think about this and humanize the Gentiles. It's like he was intent that he was going to make them be grateful for some Gentiles. He was going to make them be impressed, even inspired by some Gentiles. He wanted them to look at some Gentiles and be, wow, look at that faith. Look at that love, that self-sacrifice, that loyalty. Look at the kindness. Like he wanted to humanize the Gentile people.
What does it make you think of? What did Jesus do? He did the same thing with the Samaritans.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And even the way that he starts his ministry, Luke 4, it's like the very first thing that he does in his ministry is he declares that he is going to make a change, make a difference. Love the people that are unloved, the marginalized, the oppressed, those that are treated badly. And that's from the get-go. That's the way he starts his ministry as recorded. And I think that we sometimes, like, Jesus in a manger as a baby is not very intimidating, but we've got to listen to the message that he brought. And I think that is a lot about Christmas. It's like, in telling these stories, I think that Matthew helped us to remember and see the people's pain, the fear, the sadness, the hardship of people that were different from us. And he humanizes them in the story. And of course, that makes me think of just today that we're what is Christmas? I think we're supposed to be the light. We're supposed to be the light of hope to everybody around us. We're supposed to show Hesed. We've got to figure out how to have that, or strive to have that love that can even be unreasonable at times. And I think that with family, we're all going to be going into these situations where there's family and we may disagree about things or whatever, but we're going to have to look inside of us and find that unreasonable love, even maybe that sacrificial love of friends, people that are so lonely right now. I know that there's a depression during the holidays that can be so real. We want to be there for people and notice. Like you said, be creative, like pay attention and notice what's going on around us, even our community, and then of course the world. And I know that I talked to a sister the other night, and she was just so upset about what's going on in Palestine and the genocide of the people. I mean, it's just the pain that has gone on. Of course, there's so much violence, and the Sudan, the Ukraine situation, like there's so much gun violence people are worried about. Like there's just so much racism, or Black Americans, the unhoused. We did the gift bags for the unhoused recently. The congregation here in Portland did, and I'm so grateful that in a little way we can help. A little bit. But I think that we've got to think that way and remember that what Jesus came to change was sort of that man's inhumanity to man. That we've got to accept and love everyone. We've got to be against oppression and apartheid, and we've got to be against the things that are of the darkness and spread light instead. So I look at that and I think about how Jesus, if you look at Luke 4 and read that passage, I don't think we probably have time today to do that, but 14 through 30, it shows the beginning of his ministry. And to me, it shows too how he just made them hopping mad. I mean, that first day, he came back from the wilderness, was tested in the, and then he starts his ministry and just chooses a scripture and then talks with them a little bit about it and makes them furious. They're so angry with him. Why? Because he points out the Gentiles over and over in the conversation. They're like,
You think it was that more than him saying he was the one fulfilling the scripture?
Oh yeah. I think because it says that, you go into it and he says that he tells the story, which one? About Elisha, right? Elijah and the famine, and about how there were many in Jerusalem, there were many Israelites that were, they needed something, but he sent Elijah to a Gentile, and that's where Elijah did the miracle. And then he does the next account, the little example anecdote he gives. It was Naaman, and he points out Naaman, and he was like, there were many Israelites that had leprosy, but God healed Naaman. It's like it's like in their face, he wanted them to realize that God's love is for everybody, not just them. That they're nobody special in the sense that any more special than anybody else. And so I think that there's this Hesed for all. I think it was Jesus' message. This incredible love was for everybody. And but sometimes it takes us really opening up our hearts.
I don't know if I should get into I agree with everything you just said. I think it's an easy thing to agree with. I think it's like saying it's everything in life, everything that would change the world is all wrapped up in the word love.
Yeah.
It's about love. so much of my life, I've not been able to separate the idea, yeah, and the way that we show love to everybody is they all have to agree with us. And there are it's not an easy process, and I'm not playing my violin here. I'm saying it's really hard, and all I can do to make any sense of it is it's kind of like the re-education of a legalist. Is that if you read the scriptures legalistically, uh, then you can divide people all the time.
Yeah.
I listened to a series of interviews with people who were talking about how their nationality or their religion or whatever, it was better than everybody else. And they were asked questions, but are other people important? Yes, people are important. Yes, we're supposed to treat everybody. And I've got a neighbor that's not this religious. Yes, but is your religion or your nationality special? Well, yes, of course, I'm special. That's we. And I think I've lived so much of my life that way. And it's still in my head tricky because it is a wonderful thing to feel special and to be, I mean, to feel, I know in my whole life, I've always felt like God loved me. I don't want to, I think but when it becomes something that's exclusive, there seems to be something inherently wrong with that. And I still struggle with my legalism. I still struggle with my dogma to say, yeah, but if you love people, you want them to at least understand this aspect of Christianity. And I wonder now. I wonder. I don't wonder about. I still believe in Jesus. I believe in God. I believe that we're supposed to follow Christ. But I believe that that's supposed to be synonymous with a different way of loving people that is devoid of exclusivity. And I don't honestly know what to make of all of that yet. But those are my thoughts. And I mostly this time of year just want to drink eggnog and play Christmas music and watch. We watched Home Alone the other night. I haven't watched that all the way through.
Laughed so hard. Of course, we did it with the kids, and that was what was so much fun. I think. Yeah.
But did you say everything you wanted to say?
Yeah. I think that we can just, all I know to do is to try to grow in our empathy and our acceptance of other people. And when we see people being treated badly or things, or people that are sad or alone or whatever, to try to do the best we can and to call ourselves higher, to get out of the legalism. Which, see, I think that's what Ruth did in a funny way. She called she went a different route. Like she was a rule breaker in some ways, but not a lawbreaker. Like and I think that it inspired probably everyone around her, because she was kind of new to the faith. Maybe that was the thing, is that she was like, oh, but God is real. God is love. He wants you to just do everything you can think of to do that would be helpful. Yeah. And so to go above and beyond anything that maybe you've thought of. So I think that maybe we need to challenge ourselves. That is kind of what we used to call the Christmas spirit in a lot of ways. It's to go above and beyond and loving everybody around us. So maybe we can spread a little bit of that.
Well, we're going to talk about Bathsheba before Christmas.
We could, or we could do it after Christmas. Up to you.
No, it's up to you. This is all about you. Well, let's you pretend I'm not here. Wrap it all up. How would you close this? Say something to everybody.
Are you the director now? It's wonderful to be with you, and I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope that things are going well for you. And hey, enjoy Christmas. Find a way to enjoy Christmas.
Ho, ho, ho.